Julian Colton is a poet from Manchester who now lives in the Scottish borders. His work is often a subtle combination of the observed, the imagined, and the persistence of personal and historical memory, as reflected in his collection, Two Che Guevaras.
Applause, thinly veiled. In England, Totley Barton for those who were exact, we were asked not to applaud. Some crap about upsetting the ill-received. We were all to read, the star guest poet was unwell and did not appear, ironically, from the mists of Scotland. No applause. How we violently disagreed. English, London Asian, Manchester Jews, Antipodean and English Scots. We cheered and clapped like seals, yet in Scotland, when asked to do the same by a famous Scottish poet, please don't applaud, it's very off-putting. Most concurred, Scots, English, Scottish English, Polish Scots. I thought of John Knox, moral straitjackets, Presbyterian shame. Everybody nodded sagely. Not the dumb thing, eats away precious time. And I kept my big English mouth shut. That'll make a change, said my Scottish wife. Border country, Palm Sunday. Rising up to Ruber's Law, gazing down to small towns and farms, a hawk-eyed view of history, kaleidoscopes to the millennium in a banking Harrier jet. Here treads a Roman sandal, there a Pictish burnished shield, glints in placid locks memorial mirror, broken feet shuffling home from Flodden, vengeful arrows quivering to slay the English foe. In the cause of Charlie, Bruce, Douglas and the unknown, nameless and forgotten as those on war's memory stones. Time's healing, unhealing antagonisms, washed in so much blood, rise, shift, swell and subside, undying in the minds of the unforgiving, mapped by unbending attitudes. Contours of quiet distrust slope back to Tremontium, sets in glowing red dusk. History, the sum of all we know and all we select, remember and forget. Unprofound conclusions to simple imperatives, blurred reasonings and blunted resolutions. This is border country. The elements. 1. Earth. Slug. Inhabits a flat earth pavement universe. Submarine tube of slack fat heat, rolling in slick slime in situ. Big bang Milky Way energy, skin like a fish, sporadic progress, a self-affirming enjambment. Antecedents, reflex memory. Slugs have been here for centuries, undersides pulsing like thick black cream, waiting patiently for rain, ignorant of danger, passing feet. A day later, lists in falling blossom and leaves, flounders on summer's rocks, a boy's swinging boot, negligent tire tread, wasteful this slow, invertebrate movement, death, a final smeared ink full stop. Elements. 3. Fire. Glowworm. Wordsworth's earth-born star plays with the illusion of salamander fire. Via simple chemical reactions, emits nocturnal crystalline green, invitation to a kind of loving, wingless female worm imperative, like wearing fuck me shoes on a glitter ball darkened dance floor. Attracts smaller, mapless males, gormless, beetling to the random mating act, blind duty to maintain their species. Seed anonymously fulfilled in hedge, On grassy slope, the lady douses her sexuality, switches off the bedside light. Thank you and good night. Thaw. Landscape is a frozen body. Winter an unwanted invader. Sockets carved in hill skulls. Packed snow on the fallen legion's brows. River arteries frozen, cryogenically manacled in death. A foot-thick armour plating. Pool rims of goggle-eyed specks. Magnify eddies of hard attrition. Slowly, very slowly, warmer air kisses life into the Scottish corpse. A whisper of a thaw, a rumour of a pulse, smells of rotting timber flesh and wounded pines, soil lurches all twisting and wrenching muscles and tendons, finger clenched fists open like petals into tremulous palms, ice water trickles on deeper submerged ice. This cold is cast, set shore in permafrost, melt a stalking horse, pale sun, a temporary truce, water and ice, a promiscuous promise in a startled trout's eye, fleeting as equine snorted steam. A butterfly awakes in mistaken heat, roots twitch in the premature season, hair trigger happy snipers, the thistle obeys genetic caution, the primacy of unassuming camouflage, the patience of Bruce and Zars in the face of a winter's campaign. Spring will come and cut it down, as sure as black crows will fatten on scraps, and salmon retreat upriver to spawn. Every Friday night before tea or fish and chips, sitting in her long back kitchen watching Crackerjack, waiting for Big Brother to finish his lesson, her silent husband tending plants, betraying nothing. Quintessentially Polish, empty jars of Krakus jam, eventually going through to front room confrontation with its musty old world order smell, upright piano, stool and metronome, and always, always, nestling in the treble clef side, her cup of sweet tea and ubiquitous ashtray. Have you practiced the piece? Only a small lie. I did try. No disguising lack of talent in pianoforte. Redecorating the room, was she subconsciously recreating Warsaw before the war? A time of colour and lightness, Mozart, Chopin, Handel and Tchaikovsky, graduating into heavy Germanic darkness, Wagner, Hindemith, Richard Strauss, eclipsing her favourite, Franz Joseph Haydn. In 20 short years, had her repressed psyche resurfaced enough to expunge cynicism, bitterness and hatred? Peter O'Toole in The Night of the Generals, that blood-red SS stripe, infecting dreams. My piano teacher's nightmares were for real. A lorry blocking the end of the road, women and children thrown on board, taken away, communists, gypsies, Jews, decadent intellectuals. She hates Germans, said Dad at the kitchen table. Though not sufficient to dislike Beethoven, sipping from her saucer like a toothless cat, pressing pungent fag into the black holder, thin reed held like a minor aristocrat, hunched shoulders, little mole on cheek drawing my gaze. She doesn't like me, I said. I can hear her emigre voice, these fat years later, Can't you sit still? Stop rubbing your face. Again from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Andante, allegro, whatever the tempo. In musical terms, the runt of the litter. My brothers perform beautifully. My fidgeting too much. The rough, rude boy wishing to be outside playing uncultured football. Continuing the lessons, a favour to my dead mother. Have you washed your hands? Or was it something deeper? Did my blonde hair, blue eyes disturb her? Bring back the Ravensbrück louts, the Aryan solutions, a crude blue numbered tattoo concealed. Joining the camp orchestra, her salvation, the ultimate paradoxical humiliation, watching cousins murdered to refrains of the Renaissance. I once saw her give a concert in a church in Brooks Bar, fingers sliding with simple measured grace, no superfluous tricks, flamboyant gestures, not a trace of artistic temperament, personality and music compartmentalized, nothing to draw unwarranted attention, keeping a low profile, forever the key to survival. D.H. Lawrence. Unread for 3 years, the female librarian said, prizing the yellow volumes from the remaindered bin, could scarcely believe this fin de siècle tragedy. He who kick-started Sex and Love, Love and Sex, take your pick, long before eponymous 1963. Chronicler and critic of the mechanical age, towering giant of 20th century letters, not on the exam syllabus, see. The Rainbow, Lady Chatterley, Women in Love, good grief, the complete collected poetry. That'll be 40p, please, each. Opening dust jacket flap, a portal to the past, remembering the fox. Surely every teenager should read D.H. Lawrence. Unmoved by sentimental rhetoric, this is Galashiels, she said. The plaintive librarian's voice, keeper of the seals, franking Blue Rinse, Coxon and Cartland. At least they can be bothered to read, and every bloody small town is Galashiels. Rhododendron. It occurs to me I am perceived to be a pernicious, unwanted invader. Seed spread from the warmest south, not by wind, but tilled by human hand, occupy acid soil with my determined roots. You will see more and more of me. Though I don't wish to strangle your shoots, genetically impelled to hold my ground, I bloom beautifully bell-shaped. I'm not malignant, like giant hogweed. Heracleum, Mantigatsaneum grow to 10 feet, slap a nasty burn, irritant sap and hair to the innocent and unsuspecting. Despite my persistent bad name, these various coloured flowers of mine, a match for your own purplish thistle spike, and I accept, if I could speak, would be an uncouth sooth mooth to melodious native Gallic tongues. Forgive the way I expand and surround. Given time, you might grow to love me. George Best. A religious deity produced by the New Testament 60s, the mere existence of El Beetle kicked against the maximum wage, short back and sides, and dubious sportsmanship, a Protestant revered by Catholic priests. Despite the manufactured image, silly boots, bubble gum, and E for B, He constructed his iconography in wondrous dribbles, the shimmy, the swerve, the paradoxical crunching tackle, goals defying logic and set team play, singular arm raised egotistically. Look at that, Bobby. The almost shy smile. Could you have done it, Dennis? Sublime Irish wizardry, apotheosis of the individual, excelling within the confines of a team. The first United match attended, he scored in the first minute, clinging to the railway stand to view. A future England captain slapped around like a functional mouse by a cool beatnik cat. Poor Mills bucked for overzealousness, a euphemism for kicking lumps, the size of the crowd, that Old Trafford smell, hum of expectation when George took possession. Consider the effect on a boy's imagination. As befits all saints, martyrdom was bound to ensue. The Jesus beard seemed appropriate, though sent off spitting and slinging mud. Did it matter? Our hated teacher preached. Charlton, a better role model. We didn't dwell on nights of clubbing, dolly birds who make flesh weak, the menace of alcohol, eating away at God-given talent, nor wish to believe the Cheshire Retreat, a modern fairy tale prison. Yet in retrospect, the player of the 70s, a slightly different poet beast, performing in shorter, quicker stanzas, as when he killed off Sheffield's title hopes, less assured, almost frantic, desperately trying to prove he could carry a declining team on his slowly filling frame. Later, reduced to cameo roles for Hibs, Stockport and Dunstable Town, dragging out his gift across the fat American continent. Another latter-day plaster saint, Cantona, was surely right to get out at the top. A friend once obtained Best's autograph inside his Manchester boutique. He slyly addressed him as Mr. Best when everyone was screaming for Georgie. Perhaps he craved a little respect. In this age of deconstructed heroes, why wish to meet George Best, risk cracking the magic spell, working indelibly on the memory, twisting through thick Manchester mud, the beating of 3 bewitched defenders? She's there. Our match barely a minute old. Between poems. Between poems is a state of uncertainty, bridging 2 swords of doubt, poem and poem. In themselves, acts of blind faith, marked by cups of tea, crosswords and trips to library. Between poems is a blank page, an empty screen, fear that what came may never call again. Inspiration, a fickle friend, a precocious, fair weather performer. Between poems is bland lightness, a touching tendency to write out lists. Other poets' words appear fantastic, display a worthy sense of gravitas. Between poems is a few haiku scribbled lines, a feeling nothing can ever compete with previous verse set in printed stone, that this is not a job meant for man or woman. Between poems is a pulp pop song, listening with sighs of disinterest, watching clouds bank like planes in firmaments. Creative block to the writer is deaf. Between poems is what you've just read. Moss. I like moss. Patron saint of floral lost causes, you have to admire its persistence, the certain, resilient silence, such blithe, unprepossessing paradox, utterly resolute, whilst so soft, so velvet. Survives, thrives in deep damp places, upsides of crumbling houses, down slanted, slated, tiled roofs, the crack in the exposed wall, shadow lee beyond the garden gate, invade tree-pointed chimney breast, colonises the neglected and deeply uprooted. Beauty in bottle, emerald and Lincoln greens. I assume the house-proud scrub it away, fear it undermining petty foundations, prosaic aesthetes underappreciate how sheer delight in obscurity spreads into luxuriant poetry. I like moss. Badger. Driving home through the dark, kids doze past their bedtimes, suddenly charging to the roadside, a low, rolling bulk, wet from wood and river. At first we think it's a fox, but as senses unravel, the wild, sad cat's eye diamonds, and the lone, striped body, briefly frozen. Driving on, that lost expression brings to mind a friend I haven't seen for a while. Daffodils, an impromptu recital. Reading aloud to the heavy drinkers, entrance and costume took them unawares. You sense what truly grates the hard-bitten is the light manner these flowers flutter, dance freely in the imagined breeze, mock macho silences and stern blood, too delicate, bright and fantastic for minds eschewing fanciful speculations, weighted with mental slag from labour grind. Bloody Wordsworth, use something Scottish. I narrate Burns as a consolation. Happier revelling in their mother tongue, they disregard the fact the red rose, an ancient, appropriated English symbol. Barbara Hepworth's Garden, St Ives 2001. Between abstract holes, mock Riviera palm fronds, silence and shade resounds. Paying homage to the movement, eulogies to the self, these cast bronze flanks, the power of the creative will, in a temple to enduring fame. Base of Edwardian privilege, yet a woman, a feminist pioneer, rejecting teaching and nursing, the twin blocks of career consolation, divorcing a husband for sexy Ben Nicholson. Hammers and chisels, instruments blunt and sharp, Spanish limestone columns, introductions to Barley's Smart and the fisherman Leach befriended, like Sierre, all a little overpowering, leaving sadly sense, time and tides, chipping at the harbour wall in the prismatic, painterly light. Bullet. My father made the point, and it's a good one. If the bullet that wounded his father in the Great War had been a touch nearer to his heart, we're talking fractions here, then all of us would not be living now, my father, my brothers and our children. Notwithstanding notions of fate and reincarnation, imagine all those other close calls over the years, separating life's succession from oblivion. Better still don't. Think about life and death too much, and it will really do you in.